What's up guys, welcome back to another one. So in this one I want to talk about a profitable trader and the hot hand mentality. Now this is a very important thing that is going to turn away a lot of people when it comes to trading. A lot of people who could have been successful in day trading end up actually just going away simply because they didn't know about this. Alright, so as I said, this is something I mentioned before in the previous sections. There's a chance that when you start day trading, you will lose some money. Okay, now sometimes, for some cases, people actually end up making money. They start with a green day or a couple of green days or even green weeks, and they start really good. They start making money and all that stuff, but eventually one of these days a red day or a bad trade is going to catch up to you. Okay, and this is where people get into really real trouble, because again, we're talking about trader mentality. Okay, now one of the things is that people go green, they make a lot of money for a while, and they think they're the best. They think they figured it out. They think they have a system, and the moment they make a bad trade, or they have a bad day and it all goes down, maybe they lose everything they've made in a week, or maybe they lose everything they made in a day or a couple of days, whatever. They immediately, everything they've built in their mind off of their own confidence, it immediately shatters, and it is not a good thing. It is pretty hard, it's pretty rough, has happened to me when I started, and you need to learn to deal with that. The thing is that I mentioned this before in the previous sections. A profitable trader is not a trader that consistently every day has a green day. Okay, a profitable trader is a trader that makes more money than he loses, or he or she loses, on average. That's very important to remember. You don't necessarily have to make money every day. All you need to do is you just need to make more money than you lose. Okay, and you gotta know that losing money is a very, very normal part of your trading. Okay, if you're not comfortable, if you're not ready to lose money, you will just get a very rude awakening from the market, and it's just gonna be rough for you. So keep in mind, if you start trading, if you start day trading and you're doing well, and you see these green days come in, and you're like, oh, I figured it out, it's good. You might have figured it out, if you consistently make money, right? That is a good thing. But remember, there will be a day where you're gonna lose money. You're gonna have a bad trade. Maybe you got too confident, maybe you got too you didn't pay attention to something, or you made a mistake. Happens. No one can really see what is going to happen in the market, right? No one can predict it. So it's important to be ready for that. It's important to know that that will happen eventually. That will happen on a normal basis, and that should not turn you around. That should not discourage you. Okay, I just want to point that out. There is this thing called hot hand mentality, and people get too comfortable. People get they're like, oh, I figured it out, making money now, and then they lose money and they just turn away entirely. And if you want to be a good trader, you got to know that, if you start with the loss, that's a whole different story. But if you start with a win and you make money, or you make money consistently from a strategy, and then it just stops working, do not lose hope. Don't get discouraged. You just got to improve. Okay, so I just want to point that out. That's a very important matter before we get to another important thing, which I'm going to mention in the next video. But beside that, just keep in mind, guys, you're not going to always win. Okay, you're not going to be a perfect trader, and don't look back and say, oh, I should have bought there, I should have sold there, I should have this and that. Yeah, it's easy to look back and say, oh, I should have done that. Hindsight is 20/20, right? But don't ever do that. That's just pointless. Sometimes there has been many trades when I started. I was like, oh, maybe I should have held down that position a little bit longer. Maybe I should have not sold there. I remember a couple of days ago, I was holding on a position for too long, for a couple of days. Actually no, it was a week, right? And it was down, and it was getting a little bit uncomfortable. It was going down about $700. It was really, really uncomfortable for me. It's not disastrous, but it was I don't like this. Maybe I should have not done this, right? And then the market started to go back up again and recovered a little bit, and like it was just like it was still red, you know, it was still red. It was just not good, not looking good at all. But it was like recovering. It was not it was not a $700 loss anymore. It went down eventually to like, I think, to 150, right? It went down to 150, and it got to a point where I was like, okay, you know, it's 150. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna sell half of this position to just de-risk myself. To like, you know, just I don't want to, in case if this goes back down, I don't want to hold onto this position longer, like to this many shares for that long. Okay, so I just sold half of it, took a $75 loss. It was all right, you know, it's not a disaster. It's fine. And then the stock kept going up, and it got to a point where that position turned green. And I was like, huh, you know, if I would hold, right, I would not lose $75. I could just like let it go back up more and, you know, not lose money at all. But again, you can't see that, can you? No one can predict where the market is going to go. So I was not upset about it, because I was like, you know, whatever. I just wanted to de-risk myself. I didn't care, you know, I didn't know the market is going to go back up. So the point I'm trying to make is that, you know, remember, you're going to have bad days and good days. And it's important to know and expect them and know how to handle them and, you know, learn from them. That's it. Don't go back and just beat yourself up over like a decision that you made a while ago. Okay? So just wanted to point that out, you know, be ready to lose some money, even if you are making money right now, or if you start trading and making some money. Thank you so much, guys. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you in the next one.